Okay, so surely I don't have to tell you guys to go summon for Castoria right this second because she's on right up on JP right now. So like, surely I don't need to do a whole video saying that you should go summon for Castoria and explaining why she's so good. I mean, I'm gonna do it anyway because that's just how we do things over here on the ZTL channel, but the long and short of it is just go summon for her right now, then go into the comments and cry when you don't get her, or just rub salt in everybody else's wounds whenever you do end up pulling NP5 Castoria in your first multi. Now, if you enjoy daily FGO content, well, you're in luck because that's what I do, and all I ask for in return is a like on the video and a subscribe to the channel. Also, you can click that join button if you're feeling extra feisty, but let's just talk about Castoria. Maybe you're not completely sold on her. Maybe you're like, well, I have Scotty, so do I really need Castoria? Hey, I have Merlin. Do I really need Castoria? Again, long and short of it is, yes, you absolutely do want to have Castoria on your account because really, you don't need any supports at the end of the day. Sure, you could just farm with Chen Dingledong all day, but that's going to be the most optimized way to farm? Probably not. Castoria is going to make your life so much easier, and if you like the art style of gameplay, she is the way to go. Not to say that Caskill, Landling, Tamamo, Waver, that none of those are bad servants, it's just that Castoria just does Gafoogle's amount more for these servants because she's giving them everything they could possibly want and more. Now, I'm not really going to touch up on her hits because they're not all that important. I will say she is the 5 hit on the extra attack, so that automatically makes her a godly servant, but it really doesn't matter what her deck is. I mean, she has the triple arts deck, which that is good enough. She can have like 0% NP gain and she'd be pretty fine even from there because of all the stuff she does from her skills and her NP. And the fact that she has a triple arts deck means it's going to be easier to do arts brave chains to help her get her NP, to help your allies get their NP. It's just going to work out way better for everybody. But it does help that her NP gain isn't all that bad. It's 54% with 3 hits on those arts cards. You're really not going to be genning any stars with her with 3 hits on the quick card and 11% star generation. But again, the NP gain is not all that bad. You can pretty consistently get her NP to pop because especially those 2 Castorias, and as we'll get into her skills, NP is kind of the name of the game with. So skill 1 is this broken power crept version of Merlin's charisma because Merlin has dreamlike charisma, which gives 20% attack and then 20% NP gauge, but Castoria is like, well, what if I just give the entire party 20% attack and 30% NP gauge, still on a 6-turn cooldown, so you know the uptime is 3 turns out of 6, meaning basically half the time it's up, the other half it's down, which is still very, very good. And literally just power crept Merlin, her mentor, and was like, let me just have a better charisma. Surely I should not have to explain why this is good, because the 20% is the standard attack buff. It's the standard charisma that if you're supporting other people, you give 20% to the entire party. So that's just standard.jpg, already very, very good. And then 30% to the entire party is redonkulous. Like, that is almost unheard of, because usually if you're giving 50% right with Scotty, it does nothing else. It literally just dumps 50% NP and you get no bonus effects. The bonus effect is that you're giving somebody 50% NP. Waver only gives 30% to one person, but he at least gives them 50% crit damage. This is just like everybody gets attack, everybody gets 30% NP gauge for free, no questions asked. Again, already an insane start. Then let's just talk about skill 2. You can target one ally and give them 20% NP gauge, but then the entire party gets 30% NP generation, which since you're running double Castoria, that's 60% NP gen for the entire party. So you can see that that 54% NP gain for Castoria really doesn't matter, because after she gets 60% NP gain and then everybody's firing arch chains all over the place, giving each other 60% NP on their first skills, she's going to be able to get her NP just fine, which is good because as we'll get to, her NP is absolutely insane. But do keep in mind this is also on a 5-turn cooldown. So there will only be 2 turns where that NP gain buff is down, meaning the uptime is actually better than the first skill. And again, that's a very decent uptime. And then let's just also talk about again how insane that is. That so one ally in particular is getting 50%, but then everybody's getting 60% NP gain. So the 2 Castorias, who you're probably not going to be targeting this NP buff on anyway, right? They don't really care, but they're still getting the NP gain buff, which arguably they want more than just 20% NP. So it actually just completely works out. And again, it's just really crazy. Somebody greenlit this servant. I just need you guys to remember that somebody thought this was okay to release, because then we have her 3rd skill where she's giving you a targetable arts mana burst. 50% arts performance for 3 turns, giving them invincibility for 1 turn, and then giving them a 50% buff to threats against humanity for 3 turns. Now, do keep in mind, this is going to scale very, very well, especially for newer players that are playing through the game, because all of the big stinky enemies are all threats to humanity. And so she can just make a lot of those boss fights super trivial because you're getting insane amounts of damage against them. Nobody really talks about that, and I think people really forget that she has this on her 3rd skill. But yeah, a lot of those big stinky enemies, like the trees at the end of every lost build that people seem to struggle with, she's giving you 50% extra free damage against that, or 100% if you have double Castoria. The only negative about her skills is that you're probably going to waste one of the invincibility buffs when you dump both of this 3rd skill onto one person. That's literally the only negative I can think of for her skills, because they're all free and all of the effects are still crazy. I mean, 20% attack, very good, 30% NP gen, 50% to one ally, 50% arts performance to one ally, bonus damage against all the bosses for the foreseeable future, and then giving you invincibility. Like, she didn't have to give invincibility on that, because, I mean, let's just dive into her NP and talk about why that's crazy. Because her NP introduced a new survivability type that is solemn defense, and depending on her overcharge, depends on like how many hits of this that you get. So overcharge 1, you get 1 hit. Overcharge 5, you get 5 hits. And it can't be pierced by sure hit, pierce invincibility. The only way to get around it is to either burn the hits by just attacking somebody, which is, not going to do anything, or use like a buff removal, right? Like that's really the only way to get around solemn defense. And then let's also talk about how her NP increases your attack by 30 to 50% depending on your NP level, meaning there's actually a reason to go for higher copies of Castoria, and there's actually a reason to use her NP, because think about this. You pop her 1st skill, then her NP, she just gave 50% attack to the entire party. That is stupid broken. She also cleanses the entire party's debuffs, meaning if you put this in front of, like, say, a stunned attacker's NP, they'll then get the stun removed and then be able to use their NP, and they'll be stronger, and they'll be at an overcharge too at the very least. God forbid you already had them at like 200% NP or something. And you can see where this gets broken really, really quickly. So do you guys understand why Castoria is so good and why she's a must summon? Like, this is not like Arjuna Altar, where I was like, well, I think Arjuna Altar is very, very good, but if you already have this double Scotty system working for you, you already have like your NP5 Edmund Dantes or NP3, whatever you need, you don't really need Arjuna Altar. But Castoria is like a borderline must-have, because if you want your art servants to be at their very, very best, you want to have Castoria sandwiching them between, well, I was going to say her thighs, but I don't know if Castoria is really thick like that. She's really more of like a cute servant, if we're being honest. Some people might try to fight me and say that she's a little thick. Nah. Like, she's just really adorable. I think that's her niche. But anyway, outside of waifu material, you want to sandwich those art servants in between 2 Castorias and just have them completely pop off. And if you see anybody trying to say that, like, well, I think Castoria is a little overrated, these people have literally no idea what they're talking about. Because even someone that's new to the game can look at Castoria's kit and be like, whoa, this is really broken. There's a lot going on here that's really good. Like, we're getting monstrous attack, we're debuff cleansing, we're giving like 2 different ways to keep the entire party alive. Well, I guess the NP keeps the entire party alive, and the 3rd skill, I mean, I guess you can distribute it amongst the party members, although at that point you're losing out a lot of damage for your primary attacker. But you guys see what I'm saying? Like, it's just so crazy. There's so much that she's doing that there's literally no way for you to be like, no, I think she's a little overrated. If anything, I think she's probably one of the few servants that's actually properly rated. Like, people actually do get how insane she is. So if you watch this entire video, and if for whatever reason you decide to not summon for Castoria, you might be a little bit of a dummy. The only answers I will accept is that you already have Castoria, in which case, okay, you don't need to summon for NP2, even though higher levels of her NP actually are very beneficial because they give you even more attack, up to 50% extra attack, which is crazy. I can understand if you already have her and you're like, I want to wait for Anniversary, or I want to wait for the second half of Lost Belt 6, like, that's all fine and dandy. But if you do not have Castoria, like, what are you doing? You summon on this banner immediately, like right this second, you go summon on that banner. Like, what else do you need me to say? That her passive skills are insane? I mean, I can tell you that she has a passive 12% arts buff and a passive 10% arts crit buff, and also a built-in 20% debuff immunity, so it's actually harder to like stun or charm her, so she can't actually be useful. they actually built that in so she's an even better support. And for whatever reason, they were like, hey, maybe in the future we'll release some support for Castoria to make her an arts crit servant. I'm not saying that's going to be a thing, so don't quote me on that, but I'm just saying, like, seems kind of weird to give your support a 10% arts crit damage bonus. So I don't know, we'll see what happens in the future. But with that being said, go ahead and leave a comment down below telling me if you got Castoria or not, because that's all I want to see in the comments, or maybe some comments about Castoria being cute. I'll also accept those. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace. Late, guys.